Wake up. It's the Sleep Unplugged podcast, episode 159, Extreme Insomnia. You're killing yourself if you don't believe it. Welcome, everyone, to the Sleep Unplugged podcast. My name is Chris Winter. I'm a neurologist, sleep specialist, and your host for this episode of the podcast. If you're new to the Sleep Unplugged podcast family, welcome. If you're a veteran, welcome back. We are glad you're here. If you want to get in touch with the show, you always can through our social media. That's Dr. Chris Winter Instagram, Dr. Chris Winter Blue Sky, Dr. Chris Winter Threads, Dr. Chris Winter Twitter X. We have a YouTube page where we put all of the content of our show. We also have a Spotify music playlist, or I should say playlists. We are now on volume 4, where the music we reference in each episode of the podcast is put onto the list. And comments, corrections, criticisms, we'll jump right into it. This one is from Brooke. Brooke said, "What do the arrows mean on the sleep threat list?" So if you listen to the podcast and you're a regular, you know that the last episode of every month we have started a sleep threat top 10 list. So the top 10 threats to your sleep we did in May, and then in June Brooke must have seen that list, and the top 10 threats to your sleep are listed, and the arrows with the numbers next to them indicate the movement of that thing, that list item between last month's list and this month's list. So, for example, if I'm making this up, sleeping pills has a down arrow and a number 2, and it's currently ranked 6th. That means that last month it was ranked 4th and has dropped 2 spots to number 6. It's a fun thing we do. We try to make it academically rigorous, where we try to look for reasons, research, compelling data to try to figure out, are sleeping pills more of a threat than shift work? Or is sleep deprivation more of a threat than the light that comes off of your electronics? So anyway, if you go onto my Instagram page, at the on the main page, there's little, categories or folders, and one is the sleep threat list, and we will keep a list of all the threats in that place. I'm going to jump right to the song lyric. You're killing yourself if you don't believe it. That is from the song Angry Young Man by the group Styx. And this one in particular, Tommy Shaw, who I believe wrote the song and brought it. This was from their seventh album, Grand Illusion, which I believe was Tommy Shaw's first album with the band and was really a breakthrough album. Love the song. It's You're killing yourself, and then it's usually in parentheses, The Angry Young Man, I believe is the name of the song. And this began a series of very popular, influential albums that Styx would do. Grand Illusion was their seventh album. Pieces of Eighth, released in 78, was their eighth album. Cornerstone, 79, and Paradise Theater was 81, I believe, which led to, I think, 82 or 83 was Kilroy was here. And such great drama within the group. Tommy Shaw and J.Y. Young, James Young, they called him J.Y., were the bass and lead guitarist for Styx. Dennis DeYoung was the singer, and there was this constant friction between songs like, Angry Young Man, Blue Collar Man. What were some other their bangers? And then, Babe, and uh, Kilroy was here, Mr. Roboto, so there's this crazy theatrical keyboard sort of direction that Dennis DeYoung wanted to go in, and Tommy Shaw and JY wanted the hard rock, and it all came to a head with Kilroy was here. And they fell apart. This group has been eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for, I believe, 27 years, and they're still not still not even they've never been nominated, which I think is absolutely shocking. The song Fooling Yourself was Tommy Shaw's response to basically Dennis DeYoung's neuroticism and perfectionism. It is a very interesting song because of the time signature changes that you see in it. And one of my favorite things about that song is if you go on YouTube and look up Angry Young Man Youth Symphony, it's actually youth Symphony and a youth choir. Dennis or Tommy Shaw played with this amazing youth symphony and choir and did a whole concert of his songs. And Angry Young Man is amazing. There's this kid who comes out, whips out this violin and does an incredible violin solo during it that's just amazing. I love it. You should check it out if you want something cool to listen to. Um, so anyway, Sticks will go on the Spotify music playlist, Volume 4. Happy that they're there. And hopefully they'll follow in the footsteps of Foreigner, who just out of the blue finally got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so it really, right now, my big three that I feel like should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, obviously Boston. Sticks should be in there, and I think NXS should be in there. I think I could make a pretty strong case for that. So, moving on to the meat of this, we're 6 minutes in, and we're already ready into the podcast. So, we'll try to keep this one relatively short. So, this is the first Monday of the month. And if you are a follower of the podcast, you know, first Monday of the month is always Insomnia Monday, where we do something related to insomnia. And this one came about because of an email I received from Paul. Paul is the director of communications for The Atlantic magazine. And one day I got this very interesting article or email that, and I never get these, but it's interesting because I actually sometimes get things that would be more reserved for media and press. I think sometimes I get on lists that I shouldn't I shouldn't be on. I'm definitely not press. And the email said, "Hey, today in the Atlantic, appearing in the August issue, staff writer Jennifer Senior's quote, American Insomnia on tossing and turning through our national sleep crisis." In the piece, Jen writes for the first time about her long battle with insomnia, the myriad ways she tried to combat it over the years, the toll it's taken on her mental health, while delving into the current scientific literature of sleep and sleeplessness, with Jen visiting sleep conferences and speaking with clinicians, psychiatrists, neuroscientists, and other experts on the story. Okay, great. Excited to read it. And I think I should say in the onset, sad that anybody has to go through it. Like, I feel badly for people who are struggling with insomnia. Paul goes on to write, large percentages of Americans suffer from insomnia, trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, waking up too early. Yet the public and private sectors alike are barely doing anything to address what is a natural national health emergency. I don't know where they're getting this national health emergency. We are already in we're not even in the article yet. We're in the introductory email. We are kind of blurring sleep deprivation, poor quality sleep, the top 10 threats to your health. Notice on the top 10 threats to your health, both lists, both the June list and the May, insomnia is not on there. Insomnia is not a threat to your sleep. You know, stress, anxiety, sure, but insomnia, no. And there's a reason for that. And so he goes on to say that, and this is really important, as Jen explores, insomniacs also feel shame about about the solutions they sought for relief, namely the one thing that has worked. There we are. We're in paragraph 2, and we get to the word work, which is an important word when it comes to insomnia. What's worked for Jen? Medication. As Jen writes, what I'm hoping to do here is not to write yet another reproachful story about sleep, plump with misunderstandings and myths. Fixing sleep, obtaining sleep, is a tricky business. The work it involves and the painful choices it entails deserve nuanced examination. So we go on to the article. And believe me, feeling bad for Jen, wish Jen had reached out to me, but Jen is not the first. There are a lot of these kinds of articles and books that came before. And she mentions a few of them. Sleeplessness, a memoir of insomnia by Marie Deriskis. I'm not sure you pronounce her last name. I mentioned this in my book, The Sleep Solution, Why Your Sleep's Broken, How to Fix It, because there's a lot of really interesting claims being made in that book that don't necessarily match up with scientific truths. Um, she mentioned another book, The Shapeless Unease, A Year of Not Sleeping by Samantha Harvey. I'm going to tell you something. Samantha Harvey did not go a year without sleeping. She went maybe a year with difficult sleep, fractured sleep, unsatisfactory sleep. But if we were to hook her up secretly and see what's going on, I don't know Samantha Harvey. She slept. She did not go a year without sleep. So why are we putting this in the title? And what this started making me think about was not ripping into these poor people. I mean, they're struggling and we have to have sympathy for them. But we also, based upon this introductory email, Paul is saying that we don't care. It's a national emergency that nobody cares about. Well, we do care about it. I care a lot about it. It's just that we've got to come at this problem in a very different way. And no offense, Paul, I don't think it's this way where we start off by talking about things that really aren't true. Another book that was out, Melissa Bond, it was called A Blood Orange Night: My Journey to the Edge of Madness. And reading the blurb, you can read it on Amazon. As Melissa Bond raises her infant daughter and special needs son, she suffers from unbearable insomnia, sleeping an hour or less each night. Okay, well, if she's sleeping an hour or less each night, she's sleeping more than that during the day. Nobody is sleeping an hour a night. And this is where we come to the point of my podcast, which is all of these books, all of these articles, they are never the article where somebody was having some pretty bad insomnia and then it got better. They tried something and it was fine. We have an obsession with the worst. It's got to be super bad. I mean, reading just the introductory email that she tried everything and nothing worked. We never give light to the people who have some trouble with insomnia and then something works. Oh, I just, thought about things in a different way. I started going to bed a little bit later, not worrying so much about it. And then, I don't know, just as strangely as it came, it went away. I was doing some work this week, kind of getting ready, getting my home ready for potential storms this year. So I live in Sarasota, Florida right now, and we went through some rough ones last year. And every year you learn some lessons, that, oh, okay, well, I needed this, or maybe I needed to hook this up. I bought a generator, and when you think about weather, we talk about the worst of weather. Remember that 13th worst storm? No, you don't, because we only talk about this is the big one. This one could produce storm surge, the likes of which we do. Like, that's what gets people's attention. And so it's unfortunate that as I think a lot about insomnia, and believe me, I think a ton about it conceptually, that when we publish these articles and these books, they can harm as much as they can hurt because we don't. It's sort of like, remember that book about the guy who lost his glasses and then he very quickly realized they were on his head and, oh, there they are. I just had them up on my head. No, because that's kind of boring, right? I mean, he just did that one thing and found his glasses. That's boring. Yeah, it's boring. So we need the worst, the crazy, the unbearable insomnia. So I got to the article. What's the article is long, very well written. It's called "Why Can't Americans Sleep?" And it's interesting because this comes on the heels of a New Yorker article that was about, I think it was either 2015 or 2016, which was Why Can't We Sleep? Or Why Can't America? I mean, it was the same title. And I think that's so interesting based upon this introductory email from Paul that we're not taking this, we're, America is not responding to this health crisis. Right. We're just doing the same thing. We just write this article over and over again. And so it's why can't Americans sleep? Insomnia has become a public health emergency. Okay. So I'm going to read, this is the first line from the article. I like to tell people that the night before I stopped sleeping, I slept. Not only that, I slept well. So then you get into it. It's sort of what we talk about, like remember the episode we did a while back, the nine P's of insomnia. There's the three P's of insomnia, predisposition, precipitation, and uh, pro, what keeps it going. God, I think of um, what perpetuation. Yeah, what perpetuates it. So that's the precipitations right here. Then one night, maybe 2 months before I turned 29, that vaguening sense that normal sleepers have when they're lying in bed, their thoughts pixelating into surreal images, their mind listening towards unconsciousness, completely deserted me. How bizarre, I thought. I fell asleep at 5 a.m. There's your precipitation. And I will go back in terms of predisposition. This woman's an amazing writer, writes for The Atlantic. I think she's a Pulitzer Prize winner. This woman's no slouch. She's at the top of her game. And my guess is you get to be the top of your game and win Pulitzer Prizes and work for The Atlantic if you're a little bit type A, think about things a lot, perseverate, you know, all the things that make a great writer great or a great investor great or a great instructor great. She's like, well, I'll write later. I'm kind of interested in this TV show right now. I'm not going to. No, that's not guessing who this person is. So there was the precipitation. And then a lot of the beginning of the article is the perpetuation. I saw an acupuncturist at Tylenol PM, took a variety of supplements, including melatonin. I ran 4 miles every day. I did breathing exercises, listening to the meditation tape a friend gave me. Useless. You know what useless is a word for? It didn't work. Okay. So we've gotten deep into this article. What's work? What is work for this individual? It's useless. Okay, it's useless. What were you expecting to happen? Is the idea, well, I needed to sleep? Or what? We haven't defined we have not defined insomnia yet. It's a national crisis. It's the first thing that she says is a health emergency. Paul's saying it. Everybody's telling it's an emergency. Okay, tell me what's the emergency? What's happening here? Like, why is it an emergency? Before you do that, what is insomnia? Define it for me. Is it what you think's going? You think it's because Jennifer's not sleeping? You think that's what's going on? You think Maria, who wrote a memoir of insomnia, is sleepless? You think she's sleepless? You think Samantha Harvey went a year without sleep? Is that what we're saying here? Is that what you believe? Blood Orange Night, Journey into Madness. You think this woman's not sleeping? No, everybody's sleeping. That's not a thing. And that's what's disappointing as you get into the article. I mean, it's sort of like I took a deep dive into sleep. This woman went, the conference I was talking to you about that I went to out in Seattle? Well, it was in Houston the year before. She went. She went to the conference, like looking around for somebody who could help her sleep. And it's disappointing because she talked to a lot of really smart people. And nowhere in the article does anybody say, well, you are sleeping, right? It's impossible. You're not writing this article, doing all this research, flying to Houston, and not sleeping. So they go all over the place in this article. We're talking about circadian disruptions. Sure, okay, that can be a powerful underlying force to some of this. You're kind of a night owl, you're being forced into a morning situation, you've got a kid, whatever. There's lots of those types of things. She talks about narcolepsy at some point. They talk about CBTI, kind of trash it. It didn't work for her. CBTI didn't work for her. Again, why, what do you mean? How are we measuring success here? Hard to do when you haven't defined the problem. I'll take a step back here. I was sitting in an airport one day and I don't know the woman's name. I get her confused with the woman who just married the Buffalo Bills quarterback, Josh Allen. Like one's like one was this is terrible. I should You can tell how on the cuff these talks are. One woman was in Hawkeye and she was Haley Steinfeld. Okay, I always get her confused with this other woman, Haley Atwell, who is Agent Carter. They're both in Marvel things, but one's like shooting a bow, one is in Captain America, and she's Agent Carter. I think she had her own. I think Agent Carter was its own show. I don't know if Agent Carter has powers or not, or if she's just kind of a really good agent. I don't know much about that, as you can tell. This is not, if you're looking for information on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, probably not the podcast for you. So anyway, this woman is part of like a launch where they read bedtime stories to you. Fine. I think what Calm's doing is fine. Like, great. You got P. Diddy and the Jonas Brothers and Matthew McConaughey. I don't think we need better bedtime stories, but this company thinks that we do, thinks we need better bedtime stories. Great. What I have a problem with is I'm sitting there, like on Instagram and, waiting for a flight and was tired and just wanted some mindless, see some cool bicycle flips and parkour, magic. I don't know. This is what the algorithm thinks I'm interested in. Parkour, interesting parkour things, people jumping things on bikes, uh, people making pretty interesting dishes, like this is kind of what I get. Anyway, and this ad popped up and all it said was can't sleep. And the impression was, oh, you can't sleep? Well, maybe if Agent Carter reads you a book, then you're good. And these are really good books. Like this is not like drivel. This is like high-end cool literature. Like you could tell, like this was high-end kind of stuff, which to me, wouldn't high-end kind of get you all fired up? Like I need boring, bad, monotonous Jonas Brothers taking me through his day of errands. I don't, I mean, I don't listen to these things, but that's kind of what I need. I need to be bored by it, not intrigued, spellbound, captivated by it. So anyway, because I felt like it, I just kind of made a story on Instagram and said, what do you mean can't sleep? Like, I don't think we need bedtime story. This is not the solution here. And we kind of got into this sort of back and forth. But at one point, they said, whatever 28-year-old media person was on the back end of this exchange, where at 10 o'clock one night on a Tuesday, started getting like tagged and thought that he or they would engage with me. That's great. So at one point, they said, these things like CBTI don't work for everybody. And then I wrote back and said, what do you mean by work? How do you define work? And this unknown person wrote back and said, I suspect there's a gotcha moment. You're trying to get me into a gotcha moment. And I wrote back and said, no, there's not a gotcha moment. It's just we need to have a elevated discussion about insomnia. And I don't care what articles you want to write, but you don't get to send me an email that I read on Monday morning that says we have a national health crisis, that nobody's doing anything about it, that CBTI doesn't work, that pills do, and you go around and talk to people about narcolepsy and this and that, but in nowhere in the article does anybody ever say, you know what? You might be sleeping better than you think. And there is an ending. I mean, you should read the article and tell me what you think. Tell me it was a great article. Chris, you're missing the point, and let me hear what you have to say. But to me, it kind of got back to I'm going to try CBTI a third time. She met a guy who was really starting to try to sort of get inside of her head, like, why do you care so much? Why do you think that? What do you? But nobody ever says, well, Jennifer, you're sleeping. It's impossible not to sleep. That's not what's going on here. Yes, you're trying to exert control over something. Yes, you're trying all these things. Yes, with every failure, it's creating more stress. They kind of get around to that. But at no point is there ever this admission or this light bulb moment where my thoughts of what insomnia were not what insomnia is. And to me, that's the article we've got to put out there. Like, I would have loved for this author to put something on her wrist or under her mattress or around her finger and track her sleep. I want you to write what you think's happening. And then I want you to report on what is happening. I've never seen that article before. I'd love to see that article because I think that's the super interesting exploration, isn't it? 4 weeks in, I talked to this guy named Chris. I didn't think he was a doctor at first. I looked into it and he was. Shocking. And he said, in the morning, write down what you think happened. Was it a blood orange night? It was some, what was the thing that she wrote in here? Um, yeah, there was a great article, or there's a great quotation that she wrote. And it was something on the order of like, oh, here it is. The insomniac is not so much in dialogue with sleep as with the apocalypse. Whoa! Whoa! Okay, well, get a notebook and write on the front of it apocalypse. And in the morning, write down what the apocalypse is. I went to bed and I didn't fall asleep until 5. I had to get up at 6 for work. Okay, so you slept an hour. Okay, so let's take a look at what the Whoop band says. The Aura Ring, all the stuff we talk about. We talk about sleep trackers. We have those articles, talk about them all the time. And we have this article. And believe me, it will not be the worst. I collect them. I've got them from Forbes, NPR, The New Yorker. Now I've got one from The Atlantic. Everybody has this big expose on insomnia. And it's not subtle insomnia, it is the worst insomnia. The insomnia that nothing cures. There is no good, here it is. Here, and we'll have more. We're going to keep doing it until somebody writes the article that we all need that kind of breaks open insomnia to one of this is not anything that I thought it was that first night. I remember not sleeping and then, or I remember sleeping and then it stopped. What was going on in your head when that happened? I know what was going on because she writes about it. Why am I not falling asleep? Dear God, let me fall asleep. Oh my God, I have only 4 hours left to fall asleep. Oh God, now I've only 3 hours left. Oh God, only two. Oh God, now just one. You know what that is? We call that insomnia math. Insomnia math, where you're constantly computing, the beautiful mind, you're computing how much time you have left before the alarm clock goes off and you have to start your day. And I have people who do insomnia math just like this, and they will tell you, Chris, I was up the entire night because I was constantly looking at the clock and seeing it, and their sleep tracker registered 5 hours. They're like, it's impossible because I saw the clock every hour. No, it's not impossible. Film yourself. Come to a sleep lab. It's interesting. There was no sleep lab that I noticed in the article. Like, that's always part of the article. I went to the sleep lab and they couldn't help me. I didn't have sleep apnea. Okay, well, I don't care about sleep apnea. This is not the presentation of sleep apnea typically. How much did you sleep? What was that conversation like? How much did you think you slept in the sleep lab? And then how much did the report tell you? I never see that in the article. So Jennifer, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I told Paul, I said, I'd love to talk to her. Let's talk. I'd love to get into this dialogue. This is what I do. I love it. I run towards this problem, you know? And we're just muddled in our thinking. It's not that America doesn't care about insomnia. It's not that doctors don't care about insomnia. It's not even that doctors don't really know about CBTI. We're just having muddled, crossed communications all the time. And I hope at some point it stops. So that's it. And the title of the song, You're Killing Yourself If You Don't Believe It, really relates to hearing what I say, what others say. This is not a hot take. This is what when I went to the Seattle conference, this is what all the sleep doctors talk about, which is weird because I know a lot of the people personally that were interviewed in this article, those weren't the quotations that were being taken from Michael Grander, Kelly Barron. I think Kelly Barron, if I said, oh, I was talking about this Jennifer and the woman who didn't sleep, and like, well, she sleeps. Like, she's just really wound up about it. We got to get her unwound. Well, I think a really nice way to get somebody unwound about sleep is to tell them, hey, you're sleeping. You're probably sleeping as much as I do. You just kind of freaked out about it. It's not, you're trying too hard. So anyway, we'll see that article at some point or that book at some point, I'm sure. I want to dedicate this art today. I'm recording this. It is July 6th, and it's my father-in-law's birthday. He passed away last year. He would have been 84. And if you're looking on YouTube, I'm wearing my USAID shirt. He worked for USAID for the majority of his career, won meritorious awards from multiple presidents of multiple parties. He worked in multiple administrations in multiple parties, was a very apolitical kind of guy. Like his job was his job, and he was going to figure out a way to do it regardless of the administration. And one of the most hurtful things that I've seen come out of the last few months is the dissolution of USAID, which was a government agency that did a lot of good in this country. I knew a lot of people that worked for them. They are salty. There was people. Anytime you're around USAID people, this is how I feel. You walk away from the group, you walk away from the party that get together. And I was part of it because of Ray. I always walk away feeling like the most selfish bastard on the planet because you're around these people who are like, well, I had the opportunity to get a few more frequent flyer miles and I decided not to because that was not, or just the amount that these people give of themselves is really beyond what my brain can perceive. And really felt strongly about making the world a better place. And so happy birthday, Ray. We all miss you. You were a great guy, and we had fun celebrating you today. And as I record this podcast, I'm thinking about him. And yeah, so that's it. Extreme insomnia. We need to stop talking about extreme insomnia. It's like we need to stop talking about extreme weather. These things happen. We should be prepared for them, but there's a lot of thunderstorms that aren't extreme. There's a lot of insomnia that has great endings, that is solved almost immediately. And we should really focus on what's happening there and what people who struggle more with insomnia can learn from people who very quickly find it inside them what the problem was. So that's it. Extreme insomnia, done and dusted. If you have comments, corrections, criticism, if you read the Atlantic article, I strongly suggest that you do. Again, the name of the article is Why Can't Americans Sleep? It's in the Atlantic, written by Jennifer Senior, June 30th, 2025. Give me your feedback about it. How does it hit you? And we'll talk about it in maybe a future comments and corrections, criticism. That's it for the podcast. Dr. Chris Winter, Instagram, if you want to feedback, follow, like, and subscribe to the podcast. It's always great. If you're struggling with insomnia, please read my book, The Sleep Solution: Why Your Sleep's Broken and How to Fix It. And remember, each episode of this podcast, the first episode every month, always about insomnia. You guys sleep well.